Yes, the basic principles actually in Kali is we have three things. First, speed, timing, and power. That's the top goal for any beginners or practitioner. How to obtain the speed, how to obtain uh, timing, and how to gain power. Alright. When you want to reach these three uh, goals, first you must have coordination. How you get your coordination depends on how train you. You have to get that agility. When you get that agility, then you develop the flexibility. So all of these three will correspond to the three things: speed, timing, and power. The secret in Kali is how you are trained, and the technique is how to give the technique in training. Because anybody could have a technique, but if he doesn't know how to train the person to use the technique, then it does not mean anything. Because anybody could hold a stick and start swinging it. Anybody could kick and just kicking, And what is the secret behind, the technique?
If you look at the Pakita Tertiary system, the 12 methods, like I said, it's formulated on how you fight with the weighted weapon, with the Ginunten. Okay, so from there, it also addresses in progression. It's based upon particular ranges and particular times. So in the beginning, it's counter-offense. You counter-offense because you're behind time and you have no knowledge of how to engage a blade or how to engage another weapon. Then it goes to equal timing, where you're getting better, and now you can equal the strike of your opponent. And then 7 through 12 goes to all advanced timing. So in order to accurately execute method 7 to 12, you have to be ahead of your opponent. That means you have to be executing strikes and footwork ahead of your opponent, because that's the formula for any martial art tactic and technique. If you have an instructor that's not teaching you every single tactic and technique according to a particular range and a particular time, then you're not learning how to fight, because those are the ingredients that you have to understand in order to engage someone who is trained. So that's the formula that the system follows, and it's progressive, and it is complementary as you move through the system, which is unique actually. Most other martial arts and most other FMA, what are they based upon? They have a abecedario, which is angles of attack, correct? I mean, wouldn't you agree with me? A lot of FMA are like that?
Yeah.
Well, yes. Right. And then they teach what? What comes next? They teach, okay, what's the counters to these strikes? And then the recounters. But in reality, that's a good basic method of instruction, but where's the attack? When do you learn actually how to attack? So when you're learning that method, you're learning counteroffense, and that's it. So, where's the progression to a particular offensive attack where you're beating your opponent to the strike? You just don't see that. I mean, it's very rare. We don't have any type of, our abecedario, our 12 angles of attacks aren't for like a schematic angle where you count in the number 1, count in the number 2, 3, 4, whatever. Because there's only 3 angles of attack: diagonal, vertical, horizontal, whether you're splashing and you're thrusting. Our 12 attacks is where we hit the body, what the target areas are. And then later you learn the particular angles of attack and actually how to hit them appropriately with that particular strike. So it's quite different.
Well, actually, you kind of jumped ahead and actually answered my last question: is what makes PTK PTK? In that regard.
Well, I should say, number one, our training effectiveness, because Grant Tuan is a phenomenal trainer, and that's why many martial artists of different styles, and not only just Filipino martial arts, but other martial arts have come to him for training, because he is a phenomenal teacher. He can teach you in minutes, and that's actually what, that's one of our attributes. I mean, we tell you that we'll make you effective. You gain some understanding in minutes. It doesn't take, months and years to be combat effective. If you're smart and if you follow the training, the guidance, we can give you some knowledge and instruction that you can go out and protect yourself right away, because it's based upon offense and not defense.
We keep on beating up here, you keep on beating all the time. So now, you already had me on the two because it was off. I missed, and you already took that head. Now that is concentration. Offense, we're doing the same line.
Unfortunately, the real training methods, many of the real training methods of Filipino martial arts have been lost because it's very simple. All I needed to do is ask the question, how did these masters and grandmasters just a couple of generations ago, let's say up to the 50s, really train and really spar with this art? You think they had fencing headgear? No, they didn't. No, they didn't. So really, what is that method? And that's the method of being properly trained. I mean, you do what you call distance sparring, then technical sparring, and then full sparring. So you really don't need headgear in order to, execute the realistic strikes and attacks and engage an opponent. But you do need control, which is what the blade is all about. And the same thing, the European methods had the same methods. They did have some type of headgear, but in the Filipino martial arts, there wasn't. There was control, and that's the way that we train and that we spar. We don't need, although we spar with fencing headgear and hand protection sometimes, but it's only part of the training method. You need to be able to show me that you can engage me with a live blade, and that's what we do. We do live blade. Live blade. It's called technical sparring, but I guarantee you that everybody is respecting each other's strike. So that's the real training method, and that's what I teach. And that is our approach, and it's realistic and it's authentic, and that's the way that we do things.
Very good.
Through, again, proper footwork, ranging, manipulation of the weapon. And then the most important, which is really not taught, it's really a lost part of the art, is the visual sensitivity. When the combatants haven't, they're just outside of the range of the weapons, you have to be able to visually follow the path of your weapon and those angles of attack. So without that ability, you're going to be lost. Your opponent may go broken, fluid, circular, slash to thrust, to a teak, And what's the Filipino martial arts known for? Exactly that. The rapid, changing of angles very quick. If you can't follow that visually, then that's it. Your game is over because your opponent can, and then they're going to follow your lines of attack, your manipulation, and then they'll be able to enter, take your hand, and then take your head. So three different distinct sensitivities, distinct to Filipino martial arts, should be included in all martial arts, because again, if we're fighting empty hands, visually you have to be able to recognize what attack is coming. That's visual sensitivity, what we call proprioception. It's a whole body sensitivity. So visual into the contact of the weapon, and then into the contact of the forearms if it goes from long range into close quarter. One of the things is that if you apply this system right, and this should be for all Filipino martial arts, if you apply this against a progressively stronger strike, you shouldn't be hit. And unfortunately, I can't say that for some of the training methods and some of the styles I've observed, where you've got somebody trying to do an umbrella and they don't even have a full grip on the weapon. I'm sorry, that's just not going to work. I mean, that weapon is going to fly right out of their hands. And again, the key is, progressively, of course, you start somebody new, you're not going to come over there and give them a full power strike, but it's not going to be a weak strike either, and it's not going to be a strike that we, control all the time. But through the training progress, through the training progression, that same foundation technique that you apply, has to work against a full power strike. And that's how you validate your system, right away. That's how you question your system. And that's probably a topic that maybe a lot of people haven't thought about, because, and we're not just talking about Filipino martial arts, but any martial arts. Because if you don't question your training,
Yeah.
you're in a good. There's a great possibility that you're following a cycle of dogma.